Hello, this is Sherry from Frankfort, Kentucky, and when I drive to and from work, I like to listen to Scandal Water,
where the tea is hot and the conversation lively.
Your hosts, Candy
and Ashley,
will discuss a peculiar story somehow related to the entertainment industry. This podcast might not change the world, but it just might satisfy your thirst for an intriguing tale.
Oh, it's that time of day. Tune in and hear what the ladies say. It's time to bend your ear when the silver screen appears. Stories about the stage and screen and everything in between. So come on and join the fun. The curtain opens in 3, 2, 1. Stories and scandal water, it's where you need to be. Stories and scandal water, let's pour you a cup of tea.
Hello, Ashley.
hello.
We are about to record a very fun episode, and I
Yes.
see that you have dressed appropriately.
Absolutely, I have.
You should tell them what you're wearing.
I am wearing a t-shirt that says introverted, but willing to discuss She-Ra.
Perfect.
It is perfect.
Perfect. Am I correct? Did your mom find that for you? Is that...
Well, I found it. I was looking for costumes for Seussical back during the summer, and I needed a Starbelly Sneetch t-shirt, and I found it on TeePublic, and I was looking through, and I found this one. They were all like, you have to buy that. You have to get this for yourself. So I did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we are heading into an episode on some of the notable must-have toys over the years. It's going to be super fun. I had a great time researching this, and I thought a fun way to start
Yes.
would be with a little quiz. Now, there's a dual purpose here. Here's what I was thinking. We're going to hit on a few of these really big toy crazes.
Okay.
But I wanted to start with a little bit of some general history. So this quiz is serving the purpose of also giving us a little background.
Okay.
Okay. Question number 1. What was the very first children's toy advertised on television?
Oh my goodness. The very first children's toy advertised on television, Lincoln Logs.
Good guess.
Yeah.
Not it.
Good guess. You're wrong.
No, actually, that's you're kind of in the right area, I
Okay,
think, though.
okay.
It was actually Mr. Potato Head.
Mr. Potato Head, and he was an actual potato, right? And you just added the accessories to
yes.
him? Yeah.
100%. It was 1952.
Wow.
I could not believe this. Here's what I found in this People article that was entitled 10 Toys That Have Caused Holiday Mayhem Through the Years. And it said, Mr. Potato Head made history as the first children's toy advertised on television. As you can imagine from the barrage of brightly colored commercials currently plastered all over TV, the campaign proved quite effective. The simple toy, which then relied on kids to find their own actual potato to accompany the kit, sold more than 1 million units in its first year. 1 year later, guess what came along?
Lincoln Logs. Mrs. Potato Head.
Mrs. Potato Head. Yes, they were like, okay, we've got something
Yeah.
good going on. He needs a Mrs.
That's so funny. You provide your own potato, which is the basis of the toy.
But the genius of it,
It is.
1 million
I mean,
units.
if we can sell pet rocks, we can sell Mr. Potato Head.
And it made me think about how far we've come. 1952. We're talking 70 years, and they've had to have regulation in the last 20 or 30 to say you can't target children unfairly. You know,
Yeah.
there have to be some regulations
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this. And that was the very first time they put out a commercial on for kids for a toy. Well, okay. Question number 2. What was the first action figure?
Oh, no. The first action figure, G.I. Joe?
Very nice. He was.
Oh, he was!
He was. There's a super interesting story behind this that
Okay.
I did not know. G.I. Joe was an 11.5-inch tall plastic action figure produced by former pencil makers, the Hassenfeld brothers, who turned into the hugely successful toy company we know as Hasbro.
Oh,
And
because they're brothers,
They're-
and Brothers.
Exactly.
What a cute
And they used to make
name.
pencils prior to that.
Huh.
But the article said that by 1960, they had become one of America's largest toy companies, largely thanks to, you guessed it, Mr. Potato Head.
Mr. Potato Head.
Right? So Don Levine, Vice President and Director of Marketing and Development at Hasbro, is credited for being the one to come up with the idea behind G.I. Joe. Because Mattel's Barbie was so wildly popular, the company had this idea, this guy in particular, to create a similar type of doll targeted specifically to boys. So while walking by an art store one day, Don Levine noticed a wooden artist mannequin in a window display and was struck with an epiphany. Quote, "Suddenly it occurred to me that we could create something truly magnificent if there was a way to produce figures that moved and posed any which way the human body did. Tin and plastic soldiers have been favorites of children as long as there have been toys. It seemed to me that this fully articulated man could be a giant step forward." And so they acted on it. And the first 4 figures that they created, the first set of G.I. Joes, were designed to represent each branch of the military. The figures were labeled on their packaging. I will put a picture of this in the show notes so you all can see it. But literally, it says Action Soldier, Action Sailor, Action Marine, and Action Pilot. And the sales were huge. Again, it was 1964, right? And they were targeting toward boys. So from the very beginning, Hasbro had this huge, I don't know what you would call it. They had it in their heads that they wanted this not to be associated with dolls. They wanted it
action figure.
Right.
Yeah.
They couldn't be dolls because dolls were for girls,
That's
right?
right. Yeah.
It had to be something different. According to the article, quote, "The company strictly prohibited the term dolls and refused to sell their action figure by any retailer that used that term."
Whoa.
So they became action figures.
I love
and
it.
that's where they got the term. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, number 3. You know he never felt like he was Knuff.
Ken.
How many years after Barbie came on the scene did Ken make his first appearance?
I'm going to guess 5.
Actually, it was 2.
2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbie debuted in 1959, and according to a 2023 Cosmopolitan article, it's estimated that more than 1 billion Barbie dolls have been sold worldwide now, with Mattel claiming that 100 are sold every minute.
That's wild.
Yeah, but even when she first came out, incredibly popular. She is listed as the fad toy of the year that she came out, 1959, and so her companion, Ken, came out 2 years later and was the most popular toy of 1961.
Wow.
I found a really cool article. It's the one that I just referenced. It was from Cosmopolitan. They went back years and years, decades, and they told the most popular toy, not the toy crazes, not the must-have, you know, brawling in the store kind of toys, but just the most popular toy of every year. What do you think was the most popular toy of the year you were born, Ashley?
1980? I'd say it would be something Star Wars.
Rubik's Cube.
Rubik's Cube?
Yep.
Really?
Originally called the Magic Cube, this cubic puzzle was invented by Hungarian sculptor and architecture professor Erno Rubik.
Oh, well, that makes sense. That's his cube.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried to solve one of those?
Oh, yeah.
Have you done it?
Well, yeah.
You've solved it?
Well,
I have not.
yeah. Never?
No.
Like, even if you just, like, twist it 2 or 3 times?
I mean, I don't think so.
I mean, because
No.
you can go for the simpler
I probably gave up.
solve,
Yeah,
you know?
I probably gave
yeah,
up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to be the person who's going to solve it if you twist it 20 times and hand it to me.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
the twisted and 20 times, like it's all mixed up.
Have you seen some of the contests they
Yeah,
have where
they
they
do it-
time them
Yes,
and those
yes.
people can solve it in like seconds and it
Yeah.
will... Oh,
They're robots.
I know.
It's amazing.
Last question.
Okay.
What toy became the must-have item one Christmas after being featured in an early 90s movie?
Ooh. Oh, is it the... Oh, I don't know. Is it... I'm going to be scared. Is it like Gizmo or something?
No, it is not.
Okay.
It is nothing that will disturb you, Ashley. Rest assured.
Early 90s. Is that Elmo? Tickle Me Elmo? No, he wasn't in a movie. What movie was it? Will that give it away?
It will, but you want to
Yeah.
know?
What?
Home Alone 2. Home Alone 2.
Home Alone 2? Lost in New York. No, I still don't know. What was
I had no idea about this. This
What?
was brand new to me. The Talk Boy.
Oh.
The Talk Boy cassette player and recorder was famously created as a prop for Macaulay Culkin in the 1992 movie Home Alone 2: Lost in New York. After the invention was released to market, demand was so high, toy stores were selling out around Christmas of 93.
That's amazing.
I know. I was like, I had no idea.
And you just want to go, okay, to the family that left him again. How many times is this going to happen?
As long as it keeps making
As
money,
long as it
Ashley.
makes money, we're going to forget that kid anywhere. Home Alone 3, Home Alone
we
12.
will be terrible parents as long as it works for us.
Yes.
Okay, well, this leads us into the actual episode, right? Our topic is, again, not just famous toys. We are focusing on the toys that have caused a frenzy, the ones that...
You're going to go to jail over this
right,
toy.
the must-have
You're gonna
toys.
Beat up some other parent.
And this topic was chosen by our listeners.
Yes, it was.
We offered a poll to the members of our private Facebook group, which, by the way, I think we've mentioned it before, probably several times. It's called Armchairs and Tea. You are welcome to join. Come over there and ask to be part of it, and you can. But we put the poll out, and this was one of the two topics that they chose. So you'll hear the other one, actually, probably next week, right?
Yes.
But before we get into the ones that I researched, I was going to ask you, Ashley, have you ever gotten caught up in the must-have toy craze?
Yes and no. I mean, I've told this story before, and I can't keep belaboring the point about my poor mother that, it was the She-Ra sword. It was the She-Ra kit.
Right.
That was the one year that's what we all wanted, and they only had one left, and she got it at Target and had to split it between all of us kids that wanted it. So I didn't get the sword. It's been a big thing. I've talked about it a bunch. I do forgive her. I just think it's a funny story. But anyway, that's all I can ever remember as being my, I need to have this toy.
Okay.
That's it.
Have you ever gotten sucked into it by another parent? You know what I'm saying? Like, have you, like, I know you have a cousin who has children. Has she ever been like, Ashley, look for this toy?
No, I don't think so. I think I would have looked for holiday Barbies just as a collector at the time, but that might be the only other time that I really was, I'm going to go out and find this toy. Yeah.
Well, I have gotten caught up in it a few times. Just one memorable experience I'll share was one year when Camden in particular really wanted a Wii.
Yeah.
And
you were out in the wee small hours of the morning.
We were. Well, we decided, because they were pricey,
Yeah.
we decided we were going to make this like a family gift.
Yeah.
Because,
That's a lot.
When they were marketing that thing, they made it sound very appealing to adults too. Like, I
And it
was
wasn't?
convinced. Well, no, actually, I did really enjoy it. But I was convinced this was going to be like a big exercise thing for me. And they were fun. They
Sort
really
of like
were.
an Oculus Now, maybe?
I think so. Probably
Okay.
kind of a precursor. But we decided we were going to get one, and then it was hard to find them. So I believe it was Black Friday. I can't really recall. I just know that we heard somehow that Toys R Us was getting a shipment of them. And we knew they were going to go fast. And so Sherry volunteered to go with me, my sister. And we were up probably, I don't even know, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And we were out there in Louisville in line at
Was
a Toys
it
R Us.
cold?
It was cold and it was dark. And I didn't know when I got there, will there be a line wrapped around the building, or will we be the only two idiots that are here? And it was kind of a cross between the two.
Okay.
There was not this big long line, but there was
was other
definitely a
people.
line.
There's been people who have set up tents outside of stores before.
No, we got the Wii.
You did.
We did. We got the Wii.
Thank goodness.
So
Saying that reminded me, there was one time where Brian and I were out on a Black Friday, just kind of not really with anything in mind, just to sort of see what was going on. And I remember seeing, it might have been with Frozen 2.
oh yes, there was.
But there was one time where the big Sphinx, it was the reindeer, like the not life size obviously, but like kid size, life size, and I saw people with a truck, like where you can lift the back of the truck, one of those moving vans.
Yes.
Where they were loading those things
Wow.
in, probably for resale or to sell on eBay or something like that.
Yeah, that's sad.
It is
when you
sad.
see people
When
going and
taking it.
all these children's toys because they're going to scalp them.
Yep.
That makes me angry.
I know, it was a little
Actually,
bit.
now I'm mad.
Sorry, but they were parked at the back of Walmart, and we saw them like loading all these Spins. I think they did put a limit on how many you could buy, but
Right.
they had gotten the limit, 5 or 6 of them, and they were
Right.
putting them in there.
Well, and in the, at the beginning of Toy Crazes, people didn't know to do that. Those stores quickly figured out
Yeah.
to put those limits on there so to prevent
All the scalping.
horrible people from doing these things.
The scalping.
Yes. Well, before we jump into the 3 different must-have toys that we're
Okay.
going to talk about through this episode, I thought I would mention we actually touched on one of the crazes in our 90s episode. So if you're interested in hearing about the Beanie Baby craze of 1995, you might want to go back and
I
check
did
out.
love the Beanie Babies.
Yeah.
I did.
Everybody did.
Everybody
and
did.
everybody was convinced they were going to be so valuable.
I think the only ones that really are the Princess Diana Purple Bears. Like, are they still valuable? I feel like they are.
No,
But other ones are not.
I have no idea. Yeah. Well, on to the first of our 3.
Okay.
All right. I'm not going to tell you the topic yet.
Okay.
Actually, what I'm going to ask you to do is to watch.
Oh, okay.
This is very brief. It's about 15 seconds
Okay.
of archival news footage.
Okay.
You're going to watch, and then I'm going to ask you
What
to
toy I think it is?
well, I'm going to ask you to describe for our listeners what
What's
you saw,
happening?
because you're going to know the toy.
Chaos. That's what's happening. Chaos.
What did you see, Ashley?
That was what I predicted, which was chaos. There
Absolutely.
was so many people packed in there. They were actually throwing boxes of the toy at people. Like, not to hurt them, but just like, here, take it, take it.
And could you tell what the toy was?
Yes.
Tell them.
Cabbage Patch Dolls.
They were Cabbage Patch Kids.
Yes.
Cabbage Patch Dolls. Did you see the one manager who's like,
He had a stick or something.
it was a bat, and then you saw him like, he was so frustrated, he was kicking things at the end.
wild. I guess this is one of the wonderful things. Not that my mother needed redeeming because she is a wonderful, beautiful person, but I remember this, and I don't think that we had Cabbage Patch Dolls, so she made us dolls that looked like Cabbage Patch Dolls. She made one with blonde hair for myself and one with dark hair for my sister. But like, that was great. We loved it. We loved those things, but good golly, that was nuts.
To me, it is so powerful when you can see images like that, because
That was real life. That really happened.
it brings it home. When you
Yes.
see, here is what it was really like, then you also believe the stories that you
Yeah.
start to read across multiple
Well, that's what it's really like now. Well, not more recently, but back when TVs, like 70-inch TVs or 60-inch TVs, when they were coming out, people were going and
fighting over them.
fighting over those.
Yes.
Electronics now. People fight over electronics now.
Yeah. Well, we are starting with the Cabbage Patch riots of 1983.
The
and
riots. That's a word you use for cities that are being burned.
And that's the word they used. Every time I would call up an article, not every time, but many times, they would refer to it as a riot across multiple sources. Craziness. So here's the backstory. They are, of course, by the way, still around today. But Cabbage Patch Dolls were created by artist Xavier Roberts in
Oh, yeah, I
1978.
remember that name. Yeah, yep.
The original dolls were called Little People, and they were made of all cloth, and they sold at local craft shows. Later, of course, they changed the name, and the product caught the eye of Coleco, this toy company, who began to mass produce them. And then suddenly, you know how it is, lightning strikes,
wild.
and they take off in popularity. Time magazine had an article about this, and they said, quote, by billing each doll as unique, each one came with adoption papers
Yep.
and a birth certificate,
Yep.
the makers of Cabbage Patch Dolls were able to create an urgent sense of demand, a strategy later mimicked by Beanie Babies, Juju Pets, and more.
Juju Pets.
Yeah, that's one we're not going to talk about
Okay.
today, but it came up time and time again.
I have missed that.
It's more recent.
Oh, okay.
It's a more recent one. Well, an interesting note about the dolls was pointed out in a 2013 Time article by Jim Silver. He is or was the editor of Time to Play magazine, and he said that the Cabbage Patch Dolls were the first must-have but hard-to-find toys that were not tied to a popular TV, movie, or comic.
Yeah,
Because
okay.
prior to this, it would basically be that situation of,
Intellectual property.
well,
kind of
and they're popular because they're in the media. They're popular because they're out there. This was basically the first time you had a toy where, of its own self, it generated all that popularity. So now I'm going to play for you a brief excerpt from an NBC News segment from Christmas Eve of last year, where they are reflecting back on this frenzy. So you're going to hear just a comment, like it's maybe a sentence or so, from the creator himself, Xavier Roberts, and then you'll hear a representative from a toy museum say something briefly. This is only about 40 seconds long.
Okay.
Well, I never expected riots in the department stores.
Xavier Roberts created the Cabbage Patch Kids, which were unlike any other dolls on the market at that time. They were distinctive and diverse. Each one had a unique name and birthday.
You weren't buying a doll, you were adopting a Cabbage Patch baby.
Chris Bench is chief curator at the Strong National Museum of Play, which just inducted Cabbage Patch Kids into the Toy Hall of Fame.
So basically, I just wanted you to hear they are so popular. They are now in the Toy Hall of Fame.
That's wild.
Yeah. And when that clip went on, of course, they continued to talk about the mobs. And the interviewer even shared a story of his mother getting caught up in one of those, trying to get a doll for him. But let's talk more about those riots, okay? So the Cabbage Patch Kids were so in demand and so hard to get that one Pennsylvania woman suffered a broken leg when a crowd of 1,000 people turned into a violent department store mob.
1,000 people.
Yeah. And I think this actually may be that footage that I showed you at the top of this little piece. But one store manager claimed that he armed himself with a baseball bat to defend his position behind the counter amid all the chaos. That was his wording right there.
Defend his position. He's using words like defend my position. It looked like he was up on the counter, actually.
Yeah, he was
them.
up there. And I agree. He was using it like he was arming himself, like it was a weapon. Another store manager during this time, because this is coming from news articles at the time of the riots, right? But a different store manager reported, quote, "They knocked over the display table. People were grabbing at each other, pushing and shoving. It got ugly."
That would be a nightmare.
Oh, listen to this. I did not show you this, but I found a different news clip, again from the archives. It showed a mom. She is in the middle of this. It is a mob. It is a mass of bodies. And she suddenly starts screaming, which actually gave me chills.
Yeah.
And she says, "I've got a 3-year-old here."
Oh my
and she
gosh.
reaches down and sweeps up her daughter, who is like, she had been down on the floor getting like bumped around by all these adults who are going nuts. And the mom like gets her up in her arms, and she is just like, you can just tell she's panicked. Like, get me out of here.
Gosh.
Yeah, it was disturbing. Okay. So the frenzy was so great and the supplies so short, some stores took to having shipments delivered by armored truck.
Good golly.
And they even pulled the ads from TV for a time to try to
calm it down, guys.
Right, exactly, 100%.
This sounds like it was they overshot the mark. Like we've gotten the toy. It's not just successful now. It's dangerous.
Exactly. And of course there was the price gouging. The dolls cost about $21 back in 1983.
Which is expensive.
That's kind of pricey, but people were paying $50, $75,
Wow.
more. So if you follow our Facebook page, we had a fun post a few weeks ago where we asked people to share some of their memorable hard to find Christmas gifts from years past. And our friend Charla commented on that post, sharing that her parents were able to get her a Cabbage Patch Kid back when she was young. And she noted that she still has it and that it is not in a box because, these are her words, toys should be played with.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, I love that too. In fact, I sent Charla a note and I asked her if she would share a picture of her today with her Cabbage Patch Kid from back in the day, or it might be more than one. I'm not sure about that. She hasn't sent the picture yet, but we're going to post those. We'll put those in our show notes and share it on social media too. So thank you in advance, Charla, for sending that. But that's the end of our section on the Cabbage Patch Kids.
That gave me heart palpitations. Like, I'm a little breathless right here, like thinking of that.
It was concerning.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was really concerning.
That would be a nightmare. Talk about like, hey, I'm introverted. I'd be like, have it. You can have it. I don't need this.
It's not worth it.
It's not worth it.
Over a toy. I know. I thought we would go to break.
Okay.
And then come back and talk about our 2 other must-have toys.
One of them has to be Tickle Me Elmo. It just has to. We'll see if I'm right. We'll see.
We'll see. All right.
Are you tired of fighting all the crowds? Still nursing a bruised rib from that last foray into the mall after the scuffle that ensued while shopping for your little Tyke's must-have toy? After all the mayhem of the season, are you desperately seeking something that is a gift just for you? Might I suggest a membership to Scandal Water Podcast through either Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee as the balm to your weary soul. With 2 affordable price points, your friends here at Scandal Water are ready to talk you through not only this hectic holiday season, but the entire year as well. And with your membership, you gain access to 12 bonus minisodes. 11 are audio only, but in our December minisode, released today, we offer our first video minisode. We, along with special guest Brian, share with our viewers the notable gifts of our childhood, including an impromptu basement tour where just a few childhood treasures are stored. Visit our website, scandalwaterpodcast.com, and give yourself the gift of a Scandal Water membership today. Cheers.
And we are back from break. And again, rather than tell you, I'm going to show you, Ashley.
I can already see it. I can already see it.
So here we go.
Watch out, there's something funny going on. It's new Tickle Me Elmo.
I knew it.
Tickle Elmo, and he really talks.
That tickles.
And laughs. Tickle him again, and hold on, because his whole body shakes with laughter.
Oh, boy.
So
I would get it for those children.
Right?
Near you. Tickle Me Elmo, the newest huggable member of the Tycho Sesame Street family. Each sold separately.
That was an actual commercial
I love it.
from back in 1996.
This is the one I remember. This is the craze that I remember, which is Tickle Me Elmo.
Oh, me too. In fact, we might have a personal story from my family to share.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But watching that, the marketing was genius.
It was
so
adorable.
desirable. Like it made you want it right
I just
there.
want to get it for those kids. Like they were,
They
so happy.
Cute. They were so cute. You're going to love this whole backstory because it was so interesting to me going into it the way you did. I was like, oh, I totally remember this one, but I knew so little of this backstory.
Exactly.
And this is what makes it interesting to me to go back and go like, what? This is what was happening that I had no idea. Okay. This is how Tickle Me Elmo came to be. All right. According to a Time magazine article, one day after watching kids playing in the park where they were tickling each other, and he was noticing how much fun these kids were having just tickling, this toy inventor named Ron Dubrin decided he was going to create a stuffed animal that would laugh when it was tickled by its owner. He gets a partnership going with this engineer named Greg Hyman, and the two of them together made a stuffed monkey with an electronic chip in its stomach that was designed to make it giggle. Well, it didn't really take off, but he kept the idea. He was like, I still think there's value in this idea.
Just
but
the wrong belly. He had the wrong belly.
So he approached Tycho. And at one point, this company, Tycho, they were like, you know what? We like this. And they actually were thinking of applying it to a Tasmanian devil doll because at that time they owned the rights to Warner Brothers. But you know how things take a long time to process for things to go through. Their prototype didn't get a lot of interest. Then Tycho decided not to renew their Warner Brothers license. It kind of died, except Tycho did pick up a license with Sesame Street. And somebody decided, if we were going to use this tickle or this giggle feature with one of the Sesame Street characters, which one would it be? And they were like, Elmo. Elmo. So they applied Roy Dubrin's laughing technology to an Elmo doll. They decided to call it Tickle Me Elmo, and we know what happened after that. Now, this is interesting. Several factors contributed to the success of this toy, but 3 that they named across multiple sources, some of them came directly from the horse's mouth, I had not really thought about. Here are 3 factors, right?
Okay.
First of all, the premise was very unique, but Ron Dubrin himself said that he thought the design of having the progression of the laugh was critical to its success.
Meaning that he laughed more as he got tickled more?
Yes. Like if you tickled him just once, he would laugh. If you tickled him a second time, he laughed harder and he would say something like, that tickles. I don't remember exactly. I think it was on the 3rd time that it began to vibrate wildly.
Okay.
Yes. And so Ron Dubrin said, quote, that escalation was important. It just keeps laughing harder and harder. There was a beginning, middle, and end. And by the way, the movement was caused by a vibrating sound box. Yeah.
Okay.
So that was one of the factors. So a second factor that is widely believed to have been important to its success was the marketing decision of making Tickle Me Elmo one of those Try Me dolls, one of those Try Me toys. Because if you think about it, when you go into stores nowadays, it's very common for you to see some of the toys already have batteries in them. And if you go up and you pull a string or if you touch something, they'll actually operate. You can activate them. Exactly. Right there on the shelf. That was not as common back in 1996. They were not the first to do it, but it was still kind of rare. But some of the developers who were interviewed by Mental Floss said that they felt this Try Me feature was critical to Tickle Me Elmo's success because, just to kind of explain this is again 1996, right? This is basically it's a doll.
Yeah.
So a doll at that time, not that expensive, probably, right?
Yeah.
But in order to make Tickle Me Elmo vibrate the way it did, putting in that vibrating sound box
And the
batteries elevated the price. This doll could have been $20 without the tickle feature, but now it's $30, and that's a lot of money for parents to pay for a Sesame Street doll. So they felt like if parents are coming into a store, they're not going to buy this unless they see it working, unless they see their kid gravitating towards it, unless they see how engaging it is.
They have to see what makes it worth me paying more money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it just drew people, like the fact that it's laughing, it's drawing so much attention in the stores. That marketing decision made a big difference. Okay? Now, the third one is the biggest, and I did not remember this.
What?
They think this is the most significant reason for its wild popularity, media attention. I did see where Tickle Me Elmo was on the Today Show. There's a clip of Katie Couric and Bryant Gumbel playing with it.
Really?
Bryant
Gumbel
Gumbel has it on his lap, and he is making over it. I mean, which they
Really?
said was a big deal because he had kind of a reputation for being very serious.
Yes, he does.
But so like they had media attention, but here's what did it, okay? Rosie O'Donnell.
Oh, I think I remember this.
She had a very popular talk show back at this
I loved
time.
her talk show. I watched it.
I thought it was great.
I watched it like every day because she was sort of in the vein that I was. She was just a fan of a lot of different things. And
Yes.
I love that.
And she was very down to earth. Yeah. Well, she was a fan of Sesame Street. And so she had Sesame Street characters, Muppet characters on her show quite often. And they would do bits. They would do guest appearances. Well, in October of 1996, Elmo made his first appearance on her show, and she promoted Tickle Me Elmo by demonstrating how it worked on air. She, activated it, made over it, and on top of that, she gave away 200 Tickle Me Elmos to the studio audience who were thrilled. I mean, this was a lot of attention. It was really making this seem like a huge deal. Everybody loved it. And everyone agrees this was huge. This was huge. So heading into Christmas, the demand for Tickle Me Elmos was at a fever pitch, but unfortunately, the supply was not able to keep up with the demand. The toy company had projected a need for 100,000 Tickle Me Elmos, and what they actually realized they needed was more like 1 million. What? Yeah. And they said that the plush was not the limiting factor. The problem was that mechanism that made it laugh. Yeah. So this company is literally building new tools every week trying to keep up with the demand, and they can't. People Magazine, an article about this chaos, said, quote, by Black Friday 1996, the electric stuffed Muppet was sold out in stores across the country and chaos ensued whenever they were restocked. Walmart employee Robert Waller told People about being caught in a stampede when his store received a late-night shipment of the coveted gift.
How did people find out about the late-night shipment?
Who knows? Word of mouth. Maybe they waited outside.
Oh my gosh.
But listen to what he said. I was pulled under, trampled. The crotch was yanked out of my brand new jeans, said the clerk, who suffered a pulled hamstring, injuries to his back, jaw, and knee, a broken rib, and a concussion. I was kicked with a white Adidas before I became unconscious.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Why would you kick this man? What did he do? Nothing.
He was an employee who was, I guess, in their way as they were trying to stampede and get this. Isn't that horrible? So the Tickle Me Elmo craze not only resulted in mobs, fights, and injuries, like in the example we just heard, but also scalping.
Yeah.
Let me share with you a story.
I remember the Tickle Me Elmo craze of Christmas of 1996 very well. Our daughter Kennedy was approaching 2 years old at that time, so we were, of course, shopping for Christmas gifts for her. And Tickle Me Elmo wasn't even on our list until we kept noticing on the news that they were selling out as soon as they would arrive at stores. There were pushing, fighting, shoving, all kinds of things going on, people trying to get them. Stores couldn't keep them in stock, and they were even being sold for outlandish prices. So all this drew our attention to it, and of course, the more you hear something about that, the more you want one yourself. So we just thought, we want our daughter to have a Tickle Me Elmo, just so pretty much we could say we got one, I think. But we never had any luck finding them. Candy and I would go stop at Target and Walmart randomly and look, and never really expected to find one. But the thing that stood out to me the most was I was driving home from school one afternoon, and I noticed an old pickup off the side of the road just a couple miles from our house, and there was a man standing there holding a Tickle Me Elmo still in the box in one hand, and a cardboard sign in the other that said $500. So that was about the time I realized we were not going to be getting a Tickle Me Elmo for Christmas. But we did manage to get one for Kennedy's birthday, which was just a couple months later in February. Easy to find, right on the shelves for $28.99.
So in case you didn't pick up on that, that was my husband,
Yes.
Kirk, telling a story about us.
I was like, I thought the cardboard's going to say like, will trade for food or something, you know? My goodness, $500.
Scalping. It was horrible. It was absolutely horrible.
$500.
Yeah. Cosmopolitan, there was an article I think it's the one I already referenced. It said that some people paid as much as $1,000 to get one.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Just to wrap this up, an AARP article noted that while 1 million Elmos had been sold by Christmas, still many disappointed parents ended up with rain checks, some of which took months to redeem.
I'm just speechless.
no words.
I have no words. That's just wild.
I know. There's the Tickle Me Elmo craze. In case you haven't picked up on this, what I've done, I gave you an 80s example.
Yeah, 90s.
This is a 90s. I'm going to end with one that's more recent.
Okay.
Okay. I suspect you may not know as much about this because I didn't.
Okay.
To me, this is one that's more recent and also one that wasn't on my radar as much. Yeah. So actually, we have talked about Travis Kelce because
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and Jason has come up as well. And the two
That's his
fellas,
brother, right?
that is his brother. The two fellas have been in the media quite a bit over the last few years.
Yeah.
But in researching this episode, I ran across a Jason Kelce article that surprised me.
Okay.
There was a picture of him, Jason, promoting a toy, one that sparked a frenzy back in 2016. But the point of this article is that the toy is back now in a new updated version just in time for the Christmas season. So would you like to guess what this toy might be?
Is it something related to football? Because he's a football player,
It
right?
is not. He is a football player. Yeah, not related to
A
that.
chia pet. I don't even know.
Have you ever heard of Hatchimals?
Yes.
Okay. He's promoting a new line of Hatchimals.
Hatchable animals, right?
I'm going to tell you all about it.
Well, let's
Are
hear
you
it.
ready?
Yeah, I'm
okay.
ready.
So what I ran across was a Country Living article published just this past October. It was called Hatchimals Are Making a Comeback and Jason Kelce Calls Them Magic. Here's the first paragraph. Parents likely remember the Hatchimals frenzy of 2016. The furry transforming eggs were the it toy of the holiday season, with parents lining up at Target and Walmart and going to extreme lengths to get one for their children. There were even reports of people paying $500 to score one off eBay to make their kids' Christmas wishes come true.
I'm sorry, kids.
I know.
I'm sorry if I had kids. This mama can't do that. I'm sorry.
Well, I wanted to, even though this is not one that I know very well, I found this interesting.
Yeah.
Because it brought up some interesting points. And I thought some of our listeners who have kids who are a little younger may very well remember this one.
Okay.
Okay. So the original Hatchimals were described as an interactive furry creature that hatches out of an egg and grows up before your eyes. So each Hatchimal would arrive inside a colorful spotted egg.
Yep.
And you had to wait until it hatched to figure out which species your Hatchimal was.
Oh, I
so,
would want to pre-pick my species. At
I
least.
think that was like the excitement.
Oh,
I
what
think
did I
like,
get?
yeah, what am I going to have? What's going to emerge? It could be a draggle, kind of a cross between a dragon and an eagle, a pangula, which looked like a penguin, an alicorn, which is an owl with a unicorn horn, a birdle, which is a hybrid of a butterfly and a turtle, or a parakeet, bear and parakeet cross.
I would like to see what these things looked like.
I have pictures.
Okay.
Okay. You would rub, tap, and warm the egg, which would cause it to coo, light up, and start tapping back at you. This is like a big process until eventually it would gurgle and slowly peck its way through the hard shell. That's how it would start, okay? That like the hatching would kind of begin everything. A Today's Parent article said, quote, afterward, your kid would have a new interactive pet to raise in 3 stages: baby, toddler, and kid. Your kid can teach their Hatchimal to dance, walk, and even sing Hatchy Birthday. Depending on the stage it's in, it can even repeat what your child says to it. So these toys, they are cute.
Yeah.
Let me pause for a second and
Okay.
show you one.
What is that one? That's the little owl, alicorn or whatever it was. Oh, yeah, he's cute and fuzzy. Although I'm a little freaked out by the whole like cooing and pecking and stuff. I'd be like, it's alive, you know?
They are cute.
Yeah,
They are cute.
yeah.
Everybody wanted one.
It's not as weird looking as I thought it was going to be.
Everybody wanted one, but unfortunately, surprise, surprise, the company could not keep up with the demand. A New York Times article published back in 2016 said, though Spin Master is rushing distribution by air freighting the remaining Hatchimals from factories in China, the company has not said how many more will be available throughout December, and the shortage is expected to continue. A new batch of Hatchimals will not be available until early in 2017. So again, the demand high, supply low, which leads to long lines and price gouging again. But here's something that I thought was interesting. This shows the change, right?
Okay.
Instead of in-store stampedes and mobs, this toy sparked a lot of online battles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Bidding wars.
Exactly. So here's a quote from the same article. But unlike the early 80s when people would brawl inside stores for a Cabbage Patch doll, parents this year are waging a war online for the doe-eyed stuffed animal that hatches out of an egg. The toy retails for about $69.99, but
What? How much?
$70. Yeah.
Whoa.
But bidding on eBay, an online auction site, they're having to tell you what it is because it's 2016, has reached up to $180. Sellers are willing to hand one over without a bid for up to $300. Tori Ferris of Lower Makefield got one for $149 on Amazon and thinks she got a bargain, especially since she used gift cards she received to pay for most of it. It's the only toy her daughter Jocelyn wanted.
I'm sorry, Jocelyn. I'm real sorry. We're going to eat for December instead of get you a Hatchimal.
Well, there's more to this story.
Okay.
All right, there's a reason I picked this one,
Okay.
okay? Here's the deal. Some of those parents who worked so hard to get hold of that Hatchimal and then, gave it to
They're the ones that are raising it, aren't they?
No.
Oh,
no.
The kid's like, I don't care. The parents like, we're going to teach us to sing Hatchimal Birthday or whatever it was.
Well, listen to what happened. They're thinking this is it. We
Yeah.
did it. We've got our great Christmas. Not long after those gifts were opened on Christmas Day, a controversy emerged.
Oh, no.
Several parents complained that it sounded as though their Hatchimal was cursing while it was sleeping. Now, some people said, no. It's saying hug me while it's sleeping. But the parents complaining thought it sounded like a very different word.
Oh my gosh.
And some of them posted videos on YouTube to be like, listen to what it's saying. I will tell you, Kirk and I went and found some of those videos so that we could weigh in with what I did not think it was saying that
The dirty
word.
stuff.
Right. But now, mind you, there was one, we listened to like 3, right? We didn't go search 50. Of the ones we heard, it didn't seem to be saying that word, but there was one where they bleeped it out. I found a news archival, story where they were bleeping it out saying, we can't play this on the air. So I don't know.
Okay.
But listen to the response from Spin Master, which is the toy company who made them. They said the toys were not saying hug me or anything else. A spokeswoman for Spin Master said, quote, Hatchimals communicate by speaking their own unique language, which is made up of random sounds and by making other noises, including shivering when they're cold and snoring while they sleep. We can assure consumers that Hatchimals do not curse, nor do they use foul language. So, obviously it wasn't like everyone who was complaining about that. It was a small number of parents, but that was an issue, and it wasn't the only one. Unfortunately, other people complained that their Hatchimals didn't hatch. Remember, it's supposed to come out of the egg, right? I found an article published on December 28th of 2016 that said Spin Master, again, the toy company that makes it, was working to fix the problem. Their statement said they were increasing customer care representatives, extending hours, and increasing caller capacity. So it sounded like it was a big enough issue that they were having to respond to it in a larger way, right?
So this animal's stuck in the egg.
Basically defective. It just never hatched. So a Country Living article said, eventually more than 14 million Hatchimals were sold, and the popular toy faded away to join the ranks of other fads, like the Juju Pets and Cabbage Patch Kids. That is, remember, until now, because as we discussed at the top of this little section,
They're back.
They are back.
I hope they fix those two things.
Well, it's a brand new model. Here is a quick description quoted from this same article in case you have a kiddo you want to purchase one for this Christmas. This time, it's called Hatchimals Alive Mystery Hatch, and it features mist, lights, and more than 100 sounds and reactions. Quote, your child will insert the hatchy wings into the egg and then listen for the heartbeat. After some cuddling, the egg will rock and light up. The Hatchimal will eventually hatch and sing, and then children can feed them, play with them, and even teach them to talk. And they have 4 little Hatchimals, I guess you get to choose from. Pufficorn, Draggle, Pandu, and Puppadee. And they are $60 basically, $59.99. Yeah.
Wow.
I'm
sorry. I mean, I'm all for the Toy Story. Like, my toys come alive at night, but I don't know what I would do if it was an egg and it started misting and light was coming out of it and it was like twirling and saying this other languages. I'd be like, chuck it in the yard. It would terrify me.
Oh, that's funny. Well, just to end this section, we had a few runners up. Remember, I started by saying that we did the little poll on Facebook. Several people responded. And they mentioned some great toy crazes that we did not have the opportunity to discuss just now. So just to quickly mention, Judy shared about finding a Skeletor for her son.
Yes.
Joy and Becky both had trouble finding a Furby. Those Furbies, that was a really big craze. I debated
No, I'm so glad you didn't talk about those. My eyes are already watering. Oh my gosh, those Furbies freaked me out.
That is so funny.
Because they talked like they would just talk, and no. And they had their weird little eyeballs, and sometimes the eyes would get stuck mid-blink. You're like, I can't do it.
That is so funny.
I can't do it.
Well, Becky also went on to predict one of what she thinks is going to be this season's must-have toys, the Miss Rachel doll. Okay.
I don't know what that is, but all right.
Miss Rachel, I think, is one of the children's shows.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kirk remembered a hunt for the White Power Ranger. Jennifer mentioned having to make a special run to Toys R Us to get leap pads for her daughters. And Elizabeth didn't mention a specific toy, but she shared that when she was old enough to help her mother hunt for toys for her brother, who is 11 years younger, she was all about it, and she had a great time joining in on those big scavenger hunts for the perfect toy.
Armchair psychologist.
Oh, goodness. Well, that brings us to the armchair.
Okay.
All right.
I'm still picturing a Furby. I'm sorry, Candy. They freak me out.
That is so funny because to me, I'm like, well, I mean, they're kind of just fluffy toys.
No, they look too much like the Gremlins, the little Gremlin people. Do you remember that? We throw water on them and they become.
Yeah.
Nope.
I didn't think the Gremlins was that scary.
Yes, it was.
Okay. Okay, this is kind of an odd question.
Okay.
But I since we'd already talked about toys, I was like, well, how could I give you something different to think about? Here's what I'm going to throw at you. Kirk loved this topic, because as a 4th and 5th grade teacher, he used this idea every year to teach a fun lesson on supply and demand for social studies.
Like economics.
Yes, he would bring in articles about the latest toy craze, and the kids absolutely loved that lesson. They would get so sucked into it. They loved reading about the toys and how adults acted crazy to get them. So my question to you is, why do you think this strategy works so well on us as humans? Not even just specifically in terms of the toy craze, just in general. What is it about low supply, high demand that makes us go nuts?
I don't know. I guess it's just the psychology of people. You want what you can't have. That's why playing hard to get, quote unquote, when you're interested in somebody, you play hard to get and they're like, oh, I can't have him or her. Now I want him or her. It's the way we're wired. We just want what we can't have, usually.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's not just wanting what we can't have, it's also wanting what somebody else wants. I mean, if Rosie O'Donnell, who I like, is on this talk show and she's making over this toy like it's the best thing she's ever seen in her life, and she wants one for her child, which she did. Yeah. She wanted one for her kid at that time. That looks great. It looks like it's a wonderful toy. Yeah. I would like one too. Yeah.
It's a suggestibility.
Yeah. Okay, here's a different example. Same idea. Have you ever done this? You're in a store, you're considering buying something, and you're like, I don't know if I should. I don't know if I like it well enough.
And somebody else picks it up?
Somebody else picks it up. Or the person who's working there says, ooh, that's our last one. Yeah, We've sold out.
Yeah. Then automatically it's like, oh.
Now I want it.
Now I want it.
Now I want it. I've bought it before because of that.
Really?
Yes.
What did you buy?
I mean, just like, I don't know, a bracelet or something. I mean, nothing like super expensive. I don't mean that, but I have had those situations where it's like, oh, but it's the last one. And everybody liked it. Everybody bought it.
I kind of like it. Now I really like it.
Right. Or if I don't buy it, it's going to be gone.
And then what? And then where will I be?
I will have no chance to ever get this.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, we have evidence. We have hard evidence that this strategy works. We know it.
It is hard and cruel and riotous evidence.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's just wild.
It's appalling. Like, moving off of that question, just in general, your general thoughts as...
It's not worth it.
I know.
It's just not worth it.
I think Kirk nailed it when he said...
When he saw that was $500, that...
And then we gave her one for her birthday.
And it was easy to find.
And it was easy to find, and it was $29. And do you think Kennedy registered that she got this really great toy for her birthday versus Christmas?
At 2 years old? No, I don't.
She wasn't even 2 years old. Well, I mean, she got it on her 2-year-old birthday. Right. Yeah. She had no idea. So
sometimes I think that it becomes a bigger deal to the kids because the parents are telling them it's a bigger deal. Maybe. And I'm not shaming parents because I'm not one. But who knows what all psychology goes in this mixing bowl and causes all of this stuff to happen. Clearly, even some of the toy manufacturers were not expecting it.
Right. Right.
That's wild.
You know, one last thought that I'll kind of end with. This was just interesting to me. This is a quote I found from Robert Overstreet, an assistant professor of supply chain management at the Iowa State University Ivy College of Business. Goodness, that's a title.
That's a mouthful.
Right. But he was talking about this whole issue of supply and demand with the toys, and he brought up the example of Baby Yoda back in 2019. And this was interesting. They didn't purposely try to do... it wasn't a marketing strategy. They had just made a decision that they were going to delay the mass production on their Baby Yoda, trying to release it along with their highly anticipated Mandalorian series instead of the holiday season. And it was then, because of this choice to delay it, it did have a limited supply through Christmas, which made everybody want it. But... they lost $3 million.
Really? By not doing it at Christmas?
Because they didn't have the product to sell.
Oh.
You see?
Yeah.
So it's like sometimes these companies might, I don't know, they have to think about...
They miscalculate. They're human too.
Yes. Your miscalculations could really cost you. You never know. Well, I thought this was a fun episode.
This was fascinating. It was a fascinating look at human behavior. Like, guys, we got to do better. Come on.
I know. Well, who do we cheers?
We cheers those poor workers that were there on Black Friday that survived. Like, good for you all. Gosh, what warriors you were.
Absolutely. And you know what? Our current retail workers, thank you.
Yes.
The holiday season is such a joyful time, but it can get a little ugly in retail situations. Bless you all for being there, for staying pleasant, for working the long hours, and for doing such a wonderful job. We appreciate you.
We do appreciate you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If you love what we do, please rate and review our show. Or you can become a supporter by making a donation through buymeacoffee.com/scandalwaterpod. Whether a single gift or a recurring monthly donation, it would go a long way towards supporting our work and allowing us to keep the tea brewing.
At our website, www.scandalwaterpodcast.com, you can submit questions or your own story ideas, access our sources and show notes, see the merch we offer for sale, and more. You can join the Scandal Water community through our Scandal Water Podcast Facebook page or follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Scandal Water Podcast.
This episode was executive produced by Candy Thomas, that's me, and Ashley Raymer Brown,
that's me.
It was researched and written by Candy Thomas and edited by Ashley Raymer Brown.
A special thank you to Josh Martin, who wrote, composed, and performed the Scandal Water theme and other music. Matt C. Adams, who created the artwork, and Joshua Reith, who designed our website and provides ongoing technical support.
As a reminder, this podcast is purely for entertainment purposes. The thoughts and opinions of the host during each episode of Scandal Water are their own and do not reflect the opinions of any future guests, advertisers, or clearly professional psychologists. Thanks for listening.